Hi everyone, this is Miss Edwards, and today we're going to be doing shapes with value designs. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an abstract image using only shapes that are created using a ruler or freehand, whichever you have. If you don't have a ruler, you can use a straight edge, which is just like the edge of a book, or something that is straight so that you can draw straight lines. So you're going to make 4 designs before you create your final picture. And these 4 designs are going to be in thumbnail sketches. So you're going to divide the paper up into 4, and then you're going to create your designs on a smaller scale. So what you're going to do is take your ruler, and wherever you think you need to have a shape, you can draw a line, or you can draw that entire shape. I like to divide mine up with lines and have the shapes come organically to my paper, but you may want to actually draw specific shapes like squares, triangles, circles, stuff like that. And you can always trace something to create a solid, perfect shape. You don't have to use just what you have. You can go grab a cup or something. And you also want to be creative. You don't want your shapes to look all exactly the same. So I'm going to draw a triangle here that's going to touch the edge of the circle that I have. And then I'm going to create something across the page so that it divides it up better. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle down. You want to have at least 10 shapes, because if you have less than 10, it's going to be really hard to shade those big spaces. So you want to make sure you have your shapes all made up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw my final design. And I'm going to just take my ruler and I'm going to draw some straight lines across. Maybe a straight line this way. And I want a circle in there, so I'm going to freehand a circle just because that's what I normally do. But if you trace your circles, that's fine. And circle here. And then I'm going to draw some triangles coming off of that. Maybe a triangle over here. Divide that up. So I'm really just dividing the paper wherever I think it's aesthetically pleasing or pretty. And I want to make sure that my design is original. I don't want to copy anybody else. So I'm gonna stop there for, well, no, I'll draw one more big triangle across to divide up those shapes a little more. And then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to figure out my light source for each shape. So since we're shading these shapes and we want them to look separated, each shape is going to have its own light source. And a light source is where the light is hitting the shape, so where it's the lightest. So I'm going to start at this shape, and I think my light source is going to be the wider part of the shape. So I'm going to take my pencil, holding it from the back, and I'm just going to draw lightly in some value, some darker values. And as I move towards the other side of the shape, I'm going to press even lighter so that I can eventually blend that away. And I can even go in circles when I get darker. And then slowly lighten my pressure on the pencil. And I'm trying to make a regular line, and I'm trying to do most of the work before I take my paper towel and blend. So I'm going to take my paper towel, and I've made it into a point so that I can go in circles and very carefully I can pull the graphite down and make a blended shadow. So if I go over my lines, I can always take an eraser and clean that up. But you can see that it's starting to look really cool with those shadows fading from dark to light. So I'm going to do the same thing on this shape. I want my darker side of the shape to be over here on this right side. Coda, be quiet. Thank you. That was my dog. And I'm just going to lightly move across the shapes. And this takes a little bit of time, but in the end, it's completely worth it, because then you have a really cool abstract drawing that your parents are going to be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, let's frame it. And it also helps you learn how to shade. So one thing you don't want to do is use your finger. The reason you don't want to use your finger to shade is because it leaves an oily residue on the paper, and eventually you can see your fingerprints, which you don't want to see. So as I go down this, I'm going to choose which shapes to do, if I want them dark to light. And you're going to do this across your whole paper. You're not going to leave any shape undone. And that includes any shapes that maybe weren't your original idea for shapes, such as like this was an extra thing that I created by making other lines, but it's still a shape, so I'm still going to shade it. And again, taking that tissue and blending it out. You don't want to have any solid lines between your dark values and your light values. You want it to fade out to light values all the way to white. Okay, so if you end up getting too dark, you can always take your eraser, erase out some of that pencil, and then you can take your tissue and again blend it out so that nobody ever knew that you made a mistake. When it's done, this whole picture is going to be full of values, and you'll have a lovely abstract art piece.